Hello, everybody, and welcome to session 5 of our Innovation Ace series, How to be an Innovation Ace, with part 2 of leading. As always, I'm Andy Tilstra.
And I'm Karen Tilstra, and we're from Creativity Effect, where our mission is simple. We want to help those who want to learn how to be better creative thinkers, stellar problem solvers, and transformers in some way. And we have tools and mindsets and skills that we'd love to share with you that we've drawn from a wide variety of experiences. We don't know everything, but we're happy to share what we do know.
Awesome. Well said, Karen. So today is part 2 of our leading innovation. Thanks for joining us on this Friday. We are always so happy and just so honored that you want to share Friday with us, or if you're on YouTube or watching this in recording, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Today, we don't have a lot, but we have some powerful tools we want to share with you. 3 effective and simple tools for innovation with any team anywhere. These are some of our favorites, and these are some that we've seen have really crazy cool impact with the organizations. So without any more further ado, let's get into the first tool of the 3, and that is our Grasp It Unpack. So, Dr. Tilstra, what is the Grasp It Unpack, and why would we use it approaching innovation?
Very good question. I love this tool that we've developed over time because it fits a very specific situation that you might be facing, or when you're trying to bring about change or innovation or whatever it is. So the Grasp It Unpack is specific to this situation. You're facing a challenge or an opportunity, and you need people to weigh in. But the people who need to weigh in know a lot about the situation, and they've got ideas and points of view and perspectives and opinions and probably a lot of solutions. So the Grasp It Unpack is a way to bring that group together and ask them to hold off on solutions, and you're just looking to learn everything they know. It's a rapid cycle session, and it's powerful because everybody gets to share their perspective or what they know about these situations in a way that it's non-threatening, and people get to share. And remember, we're not looking for any solutions at this point.
Awesome. Well spoken. So, and how that is done is very simple in these 4 ways. And it's simple, but it's effective. And it's actually sometimes hard, even though it is simple. So in 4 stages, the first stage is know and assume. This is one of our favorite tools. We use this probably every time we do an innovation project. It's simple too. Let's see how many times I can say it's simple. You create a T-chart. It is simple. I know. I'm just saying, speaking the truth. So you create a T-chart on your piece of paper, the wall, whiteboard, big Post-it note. And on the left side, you say, what do you know about the challenge or opportunity? On the right side, you say, what do I assume about the challenge or opportunity? If you have a group of 10 or more, we suggest breaking it up into groups of 3 and 4. In that way, you can have several of these know and assume charts that you can have the groups do a round robin. They can cycle, they can rotate, they can see what other people are putting in know and assume. And this generates a lot of conversation. So, and we suggest taking about 10 minutes to fill the chart out and take about 10 more minutes to rotate and open up for conversation. That we've done hours and hours on a know and assume.
Oh, this is powerful. But this is, for this one, this section is the know and assume is quick. You're trying to get the information out, and that everyone has a chance to share. It evokes a lot of conversation. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. So that's the first part, just doing a know and assume with the group. Remember, on the left side of the T-chart is what do you know about the challenge, and on the right side is what do you assume. So that leads into the second section of the Grasp It Unpack.
Right, which now you have a lot of information on the board or on the table where everyone's participated. This is where your biggest takeaways. So there's going to be a lot of kind of like general knowledge, but there's certain things, there's some big takeaways, some aha moments, like, oh, good point. We didn't realize that. And you try to identify your biggest one. Maybe there'll be 2, but try to get those and really clarify them. Then from there,
you can go into the deeper dive. So you're understanding why are these the biggest? Why is this the biggest takeaway? Or why are these the biggest takeaways? Very often, when you're doing a known assume, there'll be moments when the groupers say, "Hey, I didn't know that's what you knew," or "I didn't know that was what you assumed." We know that, and it will kind of lead into those biggest takeaways. And then the
Yeah.
deeper dive is to understand, like, all right, why was this the point that everyone resonated on? What are we missing, and what do we need to understand about that? And from there, that's the fourth section.
And that's the biggest pain point. And it's good just to identify what's the biggest pain point, not to drill on this very long, but just to say this is the biggest pain point. And once you get to this point, what's really exciting is that the team kind of has some consensus around what's really happening. And I think many times what I've noticed anyway is the team then will say, you know what, here's some next steps we need to do. But what's really cool at the end of this kind of session is you've really got people together, and they have a deeper understanding, and they're really ready to collaborate much more so than at the beginning. So use it, take this tool, use it, adapt it as you see to your situation, but keep it pretty much at these 4 points and keep it moving. This is less than an hour, less than 1 hour. You don't want this to drag out.
Absolutely. And as facilitators, we like to use this when the challenge has a lot of confusion around it, and it seems that the people don't really understand what it is. So what this does is it helps them boil it down to see, all right, without all the chaff, what is the biggest pain point that this challenge represents that we need to team up with and collaborate and solve?
And a really powerful point too is you will actually have a lot of powerful questions bubble up that they didn't have before at the beginning. As people are talking, it's like, oh, that leads me to this question, or that brings a point up. Oh, that really pops a big question in my mind. So that's a really powerful takeaway as well. Have fun with this.
Yep. So that's the first tool.
It's been very helpful for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the second tool is the peer prodder. Now this is a tool that we've modified and adjusted from Otto Scharmer's case clinic, and it is something that we think is extremely valuable for teams and organizations. So Karen, what is the peer prodder and why would we use it?
So the peer prodder, again, is a tool that's under 1 hour. We're talking about all tools that are under 1 hour. And this is very specific. You use the peer prodder when you have an idea, or someone has an idea or a challenge that they don't want to take out to the organization yet or to their team yet, but they want some peer feedback. For example, Bill worked in a publishing company. Well, actually, his publishing group was inside a really large organization that did a lot of other things. And he wanted to try to see how we could integrate this publishing into more of the internal company that then would actually catapult more publishing opportunities to the external part of the company. So he called some peers together. Peers. They were not people who he answered to, or they were not people that answered to him. They were peers. And he presented his idea. And the whole point of this is his peers listened. They were not giving solutions, but they were listening so they could actually give their perspective on his situation and offer a metaphor. And you might say, well, how does that work? Well, Andy's going to tell us how it works, because this is a powerful, powerful tool that actually brings people together and energizes a group, but also builds confidence in an idea that maybe needs to be a little built out. Anyway, how does it work, Andy?
So the way it works is rather very reflective, very cerebral. This is probably our most cerebral tool we have. Everything else we try to keep it very tangible, very straightforward. So this one, though, is a very I really like this tool a lot. So the way it starts is the presenter, the person with the idea or challenge, brings the peers into the space and says, thanks for coming, and introduces the scribe and the timekeeper. And this is important because it's easy to maybe go on a tangent with this tool. So the timekeeper keeps you in that 1 hour time zone, because we have a lot to do in our days these days, and we want to keep everything to schedule. And when you're having your peers come in, you want to respect that. You want to be aware of their time they're giving to you. After that, the peers introduce themselves in about 1 to 2 sentences, and then the presenter provides a brief overview of the challenge or idea, sharing personal perspectives and answering 5 pre-questions that if you were to download these tools, you'll have another page with those 5 pre-questions. The participants, they listen and they take notes as that happens. That takes about 10 minutes. Next, the participants are given a few minutes to ask clarifying questions if there was anything they missed or anything that was slightly vague or confusing. It takes about 5 minutes. Next, the participants individually reflect in their own way. They can maybe go to a quiet corner, maybe put in some headphones, or just take about 10 minutes for them to reflect individually about what the presenter told them. Then after that 10 minutes, the group reconvenes and the participants share their reflections and perspectives, looking for images and metaphors around the challenge. So using more image-like language. So after that takes about the longest in this tool. It takes about 15 minutes. Next, the participants share with the presenter, and then they take a few minutes to have an open generative dialogue about how to fill the gaps, or maybe how to go on some next steps for the presenter, or if there are next steps, what's needed. Maybe it's just maybe the peer prodder tool serves its purpose as a solution to the presenter by giving them a new way to look at the challenge or opportunity. After that, the presenter thanks the peers for coming and says thanks again and offers them refreshments, maybe coffee, some fruits, maybe donuts, and lets them go on their merry way and takes their notes and really stews on them.
Now, if we take our publishing friend, when he presented his idea, the peers went and reflected, and they came back with, one of them came back with a really powerful metaphor. You want to encourage your peers to come up with metaphors. And remember, he wanted to take the publishing, make it more known to the company, both internally and externally. And so one of the peers came up with the concept metaphor of a farm: chickens, cows, and crops. And he said the chickens, everyone knows about the eggs and everyone knows about the crops, but the cows produce a lot of milk, and people could benefit from the milk, but they don't really know about it. They just know there's cows over there doing something. And so that might seem like a very simple metaphor, but it was really helpful to our publishing friend. And he said that really showed him that he himself was downplaying the publishing, because he felt that in this case, the chickens and the crops were far more important, but it helped him reframe. And that's the power of the peer prodder working with metaphors. And you might think, wow, how am I going to think of a metaphor? Or how are my peers going to think of a metaphor? Don't even worry about it. When you ask people to think of a metaphor, they do it. It's really interesting and it's inspiring. They come up with it. Again, take this tool, use it to your best, to fit your situation the best, but try to stick to this. Keep it under 1 hour and be really, really strict about the fact these are for peers. They're not for people who you answer to or who answer to you, because you will not get the perspectives that you want. Mm-hmm. So it's the peer prodder.
Mm-hmm. We love this tool. We think it is an incredible reframer, maybe a new perspective giver. So
it's
what were you going to say, Karen?
It's helpful for both the presenter and the peers. We've had a lot of feedback that peers who participated said, wow, that was powerful. I want to use this and do this with some of my group. Really, this is a very thoughtful, impactful tool.
So that's a second tool of our 3-tool presentation today. So let's move on to the third and final tool, which is the dynamic discussion. Now, this one, again, I love all these tools, but this one is probably my personal favorite because I love discussions. I love conversing. I'm a very verbose guy, which may be a curse and a blessing.
Maybe you noticed.
So, Karen, why would we use this tool and for what purpose?
Right. The dynamic discussion tool is a 30-minute tool. Remember, all of our tools we presented in these 2 leading segments are under an hour. And this is very specific to a situation where there's a problem, a challenge is existing, and you're not sure, should we bring this into a full project, innovation project, or can we solve it? We don't know. So we have the dynamic discussion. So for example, Doug was a high-level executive of an organization that had multiple buildings, a couple campuses and multiple buildings on each campus. And one of the buildings was having a lot of complications of doors being opened, being locked, people passing through, people traveling through, people getting lost. And he said, I think we need to reimagine how this building works. And we said, before you do that, since there's a lot of confusion around what's supposed to happen, let's bring together the people, the key players in that building. There was all kinds of different offices and different reasons people had space in that building. So brought them together. We said, there's a 30-minute discussion. You could do it virtually or face-to-face. And Doug described the situation. We're having lots of complaints about people locked doors, can't get through here. This stairway doesn't work. That elevator doesn't have clear markings, so we're not sure what to do. And the people, as they heard this, they said, oh, we didn't even know people walked down that hallway, or we didn't realize that that elevator was even used. So they were able to really clarify what the problem was and fix it within 30 minutes. Or, well, they knew what to do to fix it in 30 minutes. Now, that was a dynamic discussion that the problem was out. Key stakeholders were involved. They solved it. They moved on. And actually, they really did solve it. Sometimes you have a dynamic discussion where you bring people together and they're saying, wow, we didn't realize this was such a problem. Yes, we need to really take this further and not just have a discussion. So in that case, they would have said, yes, let's go ahead and take it into an innovation project, or let's do something more about it. But the dynamic discussion is a 30-minute tool to bring stakeholders together to talk about a problem they're all experiencing that they don't know if it could be solved by the conversation, because remember, conversation is still the best problem-solving tool, or does it need to go further? So that's the dynamic discussion. So how, Andy, would it work exactly?
So it's a fairly simple, well, actually, can I say it again? It's a simple tool. I mean, come on, we only make simple
try to make
tools.
them all simple. We
try to make them all simple and straightforward. So really what it is you bring in the key stakeholders for a 30-minute discussion, as Karen mentioned. So like in the story, the people actually using those walkways are actually experiencing those locked doors. So the people experiencing the challenge or pain point, which maybe you identified the pain point in a Grasp, It Unpack, who knows? And then you bring them into a room and you have a facilitator who is facilitating the conversation by having each person share their own individual perspective. And then that could be done, in a circle or down the line. And this is important because you want everyone to share how they feel and what they think of the situation. After that happens, they have a voting session to see if the project can be solved right then and there, or if it needs to go into a design thinking or a larger innovation initiative project. Now, if they decide that they can solve it right then and there, maybe you extend the meeting by another 30 minutes if possible, and then just have a quick brainstorming session using some tools maybe from our idea lift, and just quickly generate some solutions with everyone there in the room, and then just try to quickly solve it in those 30 minutes. Now, if it needs something a little bit more intense, like an innovation project, maybe that could then need some scheduling for the next time that group can get together. Either way, though, the dynamic discussion helps the group understand everyone's experience with the challenge. And if it's something that has already been solved somewhere else in the organization, maybe is already getting solved, or it can be solved very quickly. And if it's none of those three, then how do we approach it with an innovation project? And this, again, done very quickly, under 30 minutes. So that's the dynamic discussion, and we highly suggest you to use it. I love it. I love talking about complex challenges like this. I think it works really well.
And those are our three tools: the Grasp, It Unpack, the peer prodder, and the dynamic discussion. And remember, they're for very specific purposes. And again, the tools that we are including in this section of leading innovation have to do with when you need something quick. You're not going into a full-blown innovation project, but you have a problem to solve or an opportunity to explore, and these tools will help you. So we want you to take them, get to know them, tweak them to fit your situation, but try to keep true to what the tool is trying to do. And what we have found is lots of problems don't get solved simply because people do not have a pathway in which to solve them. It does not have to be complicated or a long pathway, just a tool, a pathway to help them come together, and someone leading them through a process of problem solving. And many, many things are way easier to solve than we think. It's just people oftentimes are afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to, how do I even get people to come together? So as an innovative person and a person that wants to learn more about innovation, these tools can be very helpful.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us on our 5th session of our
Yeah.
Innovation A series, How to Orchestrate Innovation. And this is our second and final section for leading innovation. Now, next week, we're going to be starting our landing of innovation, which is
Yeah.
how do you end a project and how do you implement its solutions and story throughout the organization. And that's an exciting, very, I think, valuable section, because a lot of people think once they show up for the project and then they leave that day, it's all done. But that's not true. And you can
Yeah.
find out why next week. Again, thank you so much. If you want to get a copy of these tools, at the bottom of the screen, you can go to our website at www.creativityeffect.com or email myself at andy@creativityeffect.com. We would love to give you these tools for free. We'd love to share in the knowledge, and we'd also love to hear from you if these have worked, if these didn't work,
Right.
if they can be done in a different way.
Yeah.
We are constantly adjusting, constantly improving. So
Yes.
reach out, keep the conversation going, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Andy Tilstra.
And I'm Karen Tilstra, mother and son team. And we're really happy you've been here, and we hope they're helpful. And keep inspiring creativity wherever you are, because heaven knows the world needs you.
Absolutely.